Best players don't always make the best team, but the best team always wins.
Episode 112 featured Trey Womack, UVA football alumni and former football coach at Malvern Prep. For more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe.
I appreciate the opportunity to come on, man, and fellowship with you here. See you're doing some really great things with Coach Tools, and I'm honored that you would ask me to come and be a part of your podcast today, man.
Yes, sir. So Coach Womack and he's literally seen me grow up. He coached me when I was a sophomore in high school, sophomore, junior, and senior, and just got reconnected on LinkedIn, actually. And can you just share with the audience about your career and what you're doing at University of Florida right now?
Sure. I definitely want to piggyback on one of the things that you said. Connectivity in this day is a crazy thing, man. And being able to connect with you back on LinkedIn, man, has been a tremendous blessing to see players that you've coached in the past and how their careers are just beginning to take off and they're doing some pretty amazing things. So hats off to you, Titch, with that. I think you asked, what am I doing now here at the University of Florida? So, man, life has a way of taking you on a journey. And, I think when you begin to, uh, you know, grow from your experiences and understand what you bring to the table, it can have you sitting at many different tables and many different seats. So right now, I like to refer to myself as the doorman for the College of Engineering when it comes to industry engagement for sponsored research. How could a football coach end up doing something like that, right? But it's been a pretty amazing journey, and I'm sure we'll delve into that a little bit later, on in our discussion.
Definitely. So can you start off by just talking about your playing career, even going back to your days at Malvern Prep?
hmm Yeah, so I think there's three key recurring themes that you'll hear throughout our discussion, right? I think it's three P's, preparedness, persisting, and pivoting, right? I think those are three themes that we'll touch on quite a bit. So, in my career, recently was inducted to Malvern Prep Hall of Fame, Athletic Hall of Fame, and being able
I
to
didn't know that. Congrats.
yeah, oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Being able to reconnect and look at some different things. A lot of times when you are pulling the plow, so to speak, or you're working, you don't think much outside of what you're focused on because athletes can tend to be laser focused on a goal. And when you're truly focused like that, you don't really get distracted or see the picture of like what's going on around you, man. So I think that one of the things as an athlete that made me, I guess successful, so to speak, was that type of focus, being prepared, knowing what I wanted, and knowing that I had to work to get there, but also knowing that it took some God-given ability, man. So. I counted a blessing, for what I was blessed with, but it wasn't just leaning on that. It was leaning on, separating myself and trying to be different, right? I could have went to my public high school. I did it for a year, but I realized that I wanted more, right? I think there was more that I wanted ultimately from life, but beginning with football, because I realized that that was like a pathway to the future for me. So I wanted to make sure that I grabbed a hold and took every opportunity I could to make the best of it. So I would say that's kind of what got me to UVA from Malvern, but Malvern in itself, I look at it as a fertile incubator, more so when it comes to business. I know that word's typically utilized for startups, but I look at Malvern as a place where, your vision can be interconnected with purpose, right? Because I think of that being incubated in that space with it being an all boys school, high achieving academic school, but aside from that, a high achieving sports school. So, combining all of that, I think really helps to shape very powerful leaders for the future. So that's kind of what happened with me, man, from Malvern and then going to UVA.
I love that. And you said vision being interconnected with purpose.
Mhm.
So, can you talk about how that's helped you when you then transitioned from your playing career to your coaching career?
Yeah, I think for any major athlete that plays at a high level, whether it's Division 1 or just making it to college in general, and playing at the college level, and even professional, right? I think that life often throws transitions, and one of like the success metrics that I focus on personally, I think that when you look at any successful individual, what you will see is that they've probably navigated transitions successfully. And what I realized is that navigating that transition from college sports to not making it professionally was one that really took me to rock bottom. I talked a little bit about it in my Hall of Fame speech, man. You know, a major depression, I can say for sure, looking back on it. And I wandered there too long. But I'm grateful for that time span of wandering because now when transitions come in life, I'm more efficient with how we go about it, right? So whether it's transition from one industry to another, whether it's transitioning from the business world to academia, right, which are two majorly different industries. I think that what helped me to navigate that was my transition from sports to real world living, right? And I think one of the things that really helped me was getting back to the incubator. You all wouldn't have knew it when I was coaching you, but that's when I was going through that major depression, right? And I think the best way for me to understand my purpose was to be knocked down like that. I think that a lot of times in those types of experiences, it's where purpose is birthed or reimagined, right? So for me, my purpose was reimagined there, and actually somewhat birthed, right? Because it was there that I realized that, I didn't make it to where I wanted to make it to, so that I could be a bridge to help people from their reality to what they aspire in their vision, which is ultimately their dream. So I'm grateful for that experience.
Definitely. So thinking back to that time, you graduated UVA in
Mhm.
20, was it 2010?
Yeah, so I was redshirted, so I graduated 2010, but I played that fall of going into 2011.
Okay.
Mhm,
So right when you were coaching me at Malvern, you
mhm,
at that time, I guess you were my age now.
mhm.
So being a young coach,
Uh-huh.
what were some of the main lessons that I know we hit on it a little bit. What are some other lessons that you've learned when you were really doing it for the first time?
Mhm. For me, man, I think it was a little bit different, right? I think that coming back to a program like Malvern, I think it suited me well. Now, if I would have been coaching middle school or younger kids, I don't think I would have been suited for that because I wouldn't have been mature enough in my coaching. But I think understanding players that go to Malvern to play at a high level, I think that, my demand for what I wanted for you all, you would understand. But one of the lessons that I learned, right, which was something that my coach used to say at Virginia, was that the best players don't always make the best team, but the best team always wins, right? I think that for the level of competition we were playing at, right, you may remember this. You played against DeAndre Swift and
Mhm.
Alameda Zacchaeus, which now both play for the Eagles. Alameda, who actually went to UVA, go Who's, right? Um, what I understood is that we had a bunch that, if they prepared correctly, even though they might not have the level of God given talent that an Alameda Zacchaeus or DeAndre Swift may have, what you have is understanding where you need to be at the right time, right? They may be faster and quicker, but if you take the coaching points and get to where you're supposed to be, you can make some pretty key plays. So I was very excited to bring that to you all, and I actually relished in it. Uh, any coach would relish in that, going playing against some of the top tier talent in the country, having players that might be overlooked, but having them be able to hold their own in that environment. Sometimes, as a coach, I think one of the hardest things for me to learn was moments where some of you all were in the right plays, but you were outmatched, right? And you made some plays, but then a play would be made on you. I had to realize that, the spirit of the athlete may be broken, and I have to transition from X's and O's to more so encouraging them that it's going to come back around. Just next time, make the play. And here's a way to do it.
It was really something that, like you were saying, you don't really understand as a 16 or 15-year-old kid,
Mhm.
but just having that perspective, looking back on it, and thinking about it from a coach's perspective, and the lessons that you've instilled in us, like you were saying, going back to the 3 P's that you brought up earlier: preparedness, purpose, and what was the last one?
So it was preparedness, persisting, and pivoting, right?
Persistent
So
and
even
pivoting.
if we go real quick back to that story that I was telling of like sometimes being outmatched, right? I think that I would encourage to help, you all to persist through, right? Because even in football and outside of it in life, there are going to be moments when you are prepared, moments when you feel you're ready, but something just happens with the execution and you have to persist through. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean give up, right? It means keep pushing, right? And what I found is that there is a very thin line between persisting and pivoting,
Right.
right? So what is the difference? The difference is when you know that you've done all you can do, you've let the chips fall where they may, and you've persisted already, it might be time to pivot. And
Right.
that's when, we go in and make halftime adjustments, or we make those adjustments on the sideline. So
Right.
it's kind of like how I see the 3 P's intertwined, but it also applies to everything in life, to be
It
honest.
really does. And thinking back to that game you talked about against Olamide Zacchaeus and DeAndre Swift,
Mm.
that was, for me, that was the highlight of my football career. And I went on to play it at the Division III level, but there was nothing like that. I mean, we went on and we really beat one of the best teams in the country, which was something that nobody really expected us to do. And to your point, it all came back to how we were able to adjust and how we were able to think one step in front of the competition,
Mhm.
because we had coaches like you who were there teaching us to
Mhm.
put us in the right spot.
Yeah. Yeah, no, man. And I think it's a testament to you all. I think that you are, again, the best players don't always make the best players don't always make the best team, but the best team always wins. But I think there undoubtedly you all had, tons of studs on Malvern's team as well. Alex Hornibrook, who went on to play at Wisconsin. And then you had Trevor Morris, of course. I mean, you guys were loaded. I think that each program at every level, Division I AA, Division II, Division III, they all got great players at their levels going there. They all got great leaders going to their teams coming from Malvern.
For sure. For sure. So, any last words, coach, that you want to be able to share with the audience today?
I think that, understanding the translation between sports and life, I think is critical, right? And that's the 3 P's that I always lean on. I think that football always taught you to be prepared. And what you understand about football, right? The game is more mental than it is physical. But if your physical isn't prepared, how can your mental be prepared? Right? I think it's no different than when you go into the business world, understanding that you have to be prepared all the way, but sometimes you have to get an idea and an understanding of one of the things that my college coach used to say is that in between the white lines, nothing else matters, right? I think that creating an environment in business, whether you are a leader or whether you are, just starting off in your career, you have to adopt the principle that you are a thermostat and not a thermometer. You set the environment. And I think when true leaders enter a room, that's what happens. So I think understanding how you're a leader in sports, transitioning that to business, and being prepared and persisting through when things are difficult, and knowing when to pivot will make anyone successful when it comes to business, when it comes to sports.
Those are a lot of golden nuggets right there. I love that. Be the thermostat, not the thermometer.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a great thing.
Yeah.
So, coach, really was a pleasure talking with you today. Thanks again for being on, and best of luck as you continue with your career.
Yeah, same to you, man. And I'm looking forward to seeing many more great things with Coach Tools and how you just transform the coaching industry.